I was going to comment, Claire, that I think it's going to be really interesting watching you slowly fade in and out of color. I mean, that's kind of awesome.
It's like a
I don't know why it
chameleon
happened.
thing. Fancy chameleon. I'm gonna shut the door. It's gonna be loud here too.
All right. I think I am officially in charge tonight, so I will pretend so. I'm sure everyone noticed we are recording this event, and we've been posting them after the fact to our YouTube channel that gets posted on the SSC website. So if you want to check out something that's already happened or check out something in the past, it is actually now available to you, as opposed to my chicken scratch meeting notes that don't really tell you that much. I guess we can start out by saying hi. Let's go around the circle. I'm Marco Cabrera. I am co-chair of the SSC. I have an 8th grade student at Greenspire. Kat?
Hi, I'm Kat. I'm the other co-chair of the SSC, and I have a 7th grader and an 8th grader. I almost said 6th and 7th at Greenspire, and soon to be, this fall, as Liam tells me, at Greenspire High School.
Sarah?
I'm Sarah Pant, assistant head of school. I have 3 Greenspire graduates who are all either in high school or have graduated from high school. So.
Claire?
I am a teacher at the Greenspire School. No kids there, but I feel like I didn't fit into the group because you guys all have kids. I am the literature and speech teacher at Greenspire, and I'm the one that makes all of your kids read all the time.
All right. You're listed as Doug, but I know you're not Doug.
Yes, sorry. Hi, everyone. I'm Maya, and I am mother to Tenzin, who's in 7th grade. And thank you, Claire, for inspiring my son to read all kinds of things like warriors. And he's currently reading an individual story from the Japanese internment camps. But thank you for getting my son reading plenty, an hour at least a day. So
I love that. Best news ever.
Thanks.
That is quite brilliant. Amy?
Hi, I'm Amy. I am Cameron's mom, and he is new to Greenspire this year, 6th grade.
Excellent. Jessica?
Hi, I'm Jessica. I am Lillian and Jaden's mom, 6th and 8th grade.
I don't think I realized that Lillian is at Greenspire now. I guess that makes total sense since I've seen her there. All right, Jackie, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Jackie Burke, and I have a 6th grade daughter at Greenspire.
All right, Jen?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Byron, and my son is Zeb Mackey in 8th grade, or 7th grade. I did that last time, too.
They do seem so much older than you think they are. All right, Tom.
I'm Tom Peters. I got a 12-year-old grandson, 6th grade.
Excellent. All my screens just shifted. I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss anybody. All right. I think we should check to see if there's any outstanding business, make it feel like a real meeting. At one of our last events, Jackie, you had talked about creating a form to send out to people. I'm curious how that is coming, and if the true answer is I sent it to you and you're holding everything up, that is perfectly okay.
I did send it to you guys. I don't know how to email it to everybody, so I sent the link and I made the changes and it's ready to go as soon as it can be sent out. I don't know what mode, if we're looking to see if Greenspire will send it out or what. I'm not sure how you guys, I'm too new to know really how communication works, but it's ready and I'm willing to team people up. We've had an unofficial pod happening over here with the person that I met over the last meeting. So that's been going well once a week.
Awesome. I think what we'll do is we'll post it to the SSC website and I'll share that out on Facebook. I think that way everyone has the chance to opt into the information we're giving them. So I will actually take care of that.
Was this something that would reasonably go through the school also, or just through us?
I think this might be
of liability and such.
Sticky areas if it goes through the school. I think this is a parent thing.
We asked the school to tell people to check the page to know it's there. Just speaking from, again, previous PTO emails and trying to get parents to realize it's there, and parents maybe not knowing to check it to see it. So if there was any way to let people know, hey, there's, parents are organizing some gatherings or get-togethers. If you're interested, go find them at the Facebook page, and then maybe that would just be sufficient. That's just my idea based on previous experience.
Awesome. Sarah, do you see any concerns with that?
I don't. In fact, I just made a note to have Robert include that in his next newsletter.
Okay.
I had a couple people ask about recording tonight, so that'll be a nice follow through on that follow-up.
Cool. We'll put that out there. And I'll create a page on the Greenspire site, the SSC site, so that we can link directly to it if we need to. Awesome. I had one outstanding question for Kat. Since you are currently the owner, do you have anything that we should be asking while we have people here about yearbook and moving forward with that? Are there any challenges? And
I don't believe so. I have been getting photos. Yeah, I've been putting them into a file, and my plan is this next week to start working on that, actually putting in the photos that have been given to me from the school, which means we have permission to use those photos. If there are photos of, actually, yes, let me completely reverse that answer and say, yes, if you have a kid that is doing 100% remote and you have photos that you want in the yearbook, are okay with us having the yearbook, you can send them to the school or to me. What's the best plan for that, Sarah? Do you think sending them to me so that they don't have to be corralled there also?
Right, but if they, if someone thinks of it later, they can just send it to me and I'll forward it on to you.
Yep. And my email is, I'm going to put it in the chat, but I'm also going to say it out loud so it's on recording. It is Kat, K-A-T, Eldred, E-L-D-R-E-D, music, M-U-S-I-C, @yahoo.com. That way, they're all going into one folder. And Tori gave me information. Actually, the gentleman who helped with the yearbook, I guess it's a contact salesperson, I'm not sure who, just reached out to me this week to say, hey, can I help get this going? If so, we'll get you into the system. So I'm working on that. So that's going to start moving forward rather quickly, I think.
excellent.
So anything else you need from me information-wise?
No, I want to make sure that this is something we touch on
absolutely
frequently so that you're not off alone having to do it.
And I honestly, if anybody has a burning desire to be an extra pair of hands, talk to me. If there's extra stuff to do, I will give you stuff to do.
And again, I think that would be a good piece of information to have in the newsletter, especially for remote parents. Last year, at the end of our yearbook, we had a lot of photos of students that were, when we were all at the stay-at-home order. And I thought it added a really nice touch. That's the reality of the year, right?
Absolutely. Live with the world we've got. All right. I was rather lame as the last week has been busy. So I didn't assemble an agenda. But the way this standardly goes is we give our attending teacher the opportunity to speak a little bit about what's going on. The big thing we're going to be having today happen is Sarah's going to review some of the how do you access information about your student. And then just some opportunity for parents to talk, ask questions, all of that. So if there are any topics that you'd like to make sure that we address before we sign off today, please drop them in the chat. And it's on my right. That's why I'm leaning that way. With that, Claire, I'm going to give you the mic.
Excuse me while I put my knitting down. So everything's been going pretty well. Having just, started the hybrid, it was a little bit rocky. I feel like we're ironing out a lot of the issues. Q2 schedule is firmly in place, and I think.
Is it all remote for everybody, or is it 2 days?
Oh, I apologize. Our hybrid schedule is 2 days in person and 3 days virtual. We do have several kids who are still completely virtual as well. And beyond that, we're trying to do as much activity type work while the kids are in school as possible. It's not always 100%, but just trying to make sure that they're keeping to as many of the Greenspire norms as we can. We just brought our advisories back for this week as well. And so we're excited to see what else we'll be able to maneuver in. As of right now, though, I think we're doing a pretty good job. Should I be sharing? Oh, thank you, Marco. Should I be sharing anything else, or?
I would be. Let me see. I think you've explained what's going on and how you're doing. Is there currently a project going on that you could talk about?
Well, I'm kicking off. Phil and I are getting into our memoir project, so we're actually going to be having the kids reading some longer memoirs. I actually have some shorter ones as well to make it a little bit easier for some. And I know that there are a couple of others in the works. We're really pushing the limits on what we can do with PBL right now with virtual learning. And we're trying really hard to make sure that we're sticking with as many of those foundations as we possibly can. So the project will encompass a lot of different parts for ELA and for Lit. And hopefully we'll be able to, bring in as many of those foundations of those parts that we possibly can. As of right now, I think, Sarah, I'm not remembering clearly on, I think science and social studies are starting a project pretty quickly here. Is that correct?
Yep, they are starting a project actually on evolution and tying into that the agricultural revolution. It'll be pretty interesting. They're going to talk about cavemen stereotypes, which I'm kind of interested to hear what they're going to do with that. Then they will be in science learning about fossils, just like the chronological order based on evidence of skulls. I think final product for science would be some sort of a family tree. And then in social studies, an accurate portrayal of cavemen, which I wonder if we will call cave people. I'm not really sure.
And lots of digging was involved, right? Lots and lots of digging.
Desire to dig. So I hope you have a backyard that you're open to having dug up.
So please tell me that they're going to talk about Neanderthal genes still in the current system of the world.
That's a great question for Kelly. I defer to Kelly.
I also think it's really interesting to put Neanderthal alongside with family tree to see what, there's some truth we need to think about on that one.
Cool. I'll tell her you said that.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Claire before I let her drop the mic?
Or PJ.
Or PJ. All right. I guess we will let that roll then. Thank you so much, Claire. And Sarah, I believe you are up. And
awesome.
Kat, you might need to give Sarah rights to share because she has a presentation.
So while you're doing that, I do want to add, one of the challenges, there's a lot of challenges, right, with the current situation. With project-based learning, we emphasize experiential education. So the challenge with math is how to do projects in which we are teaching also the most important skills. So projects have changed most significantly in the math classes, and they are now focusing more on experiential learning, less on projects. So, unfortunately this year we did not do what we were hoping to do as a big presentation for parents all on project-based learning, where we have a driving question and we have this big kickoff event and kind of walk everybody through that. So some of you probably are like, oh, I don't even know what that is anyway, which is unfortunate, but that's just sort of the kind of situation that we're in. So normally we have a whole series of things for PBL in which we are, for math, we're really chopping some of that off, feeling like I said, skills are the most important thing. And because this year seems somewhat truncated, we are choosing the skills that we feel like are most important. Math is linear, unlike the other subjects where you can pick and choose and you can piece them together easily. Math is somewhat linear. So math will be mostly experiential. They will start with a problem, and it could be, I'm not a math teacher, so it's a stretch for me to come up with a scenario, but we have some new materials in which they are short problems. So the students are presented with a problem, they kind of wrestle with the material, and then and then they are taught how to solve it. So that's a pretty common way to teach PBL math, but it is less project oriented than it has been in the past. I just wanted to throw that out there as well. And we feel pretty good about it. It's most important, I think, right now for us to be less ambitious and to do more with little than to be more ambitious and to not succeed and not be able to complete projects or complete content. So that's kind of where that's at right now. Okay, so the two things that I wanted to speak about that I've heard from parents would be grades. And I know we just finished Q1, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how to help your student be successful when they are at home during the hybrid schedule, so that if they're Monday, Tuesday in person, they're Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at home, how to help them stay on task. Now, I've got information on that from parents, from students, and from reading and just kind of my own experiences. And then hopefully there'll be some time where you can share some of your own successes or the things that you've tried that you've not had success with. But I do want to talk a little bit about grades. So let me just share my screen. It says that the host disabled screen sharing.
I love the technical problem part of the agenda.
So I'll wait till you're there. It says that it's disabled.
Can you make her co-host maybe?
Let me try again. Try it. Now try.
Sweet, awesome. Okay, so Emily made this tutorial, I don't know, maybe a week or so ago. And I just want to play it because I really couldn't explain it any better, but I do feel like it's a really great visual. If you cannot hear the audio, however, let me know. I tend to get tripped up on sharing the audio. Can you hear that? Okay.
Usually what
Okay, what's my solution? I can't remember.
You need to unshare, and when you share Chrome, there is a checkbox in the bottom left-hand corner that says share sound, I think. That's usually the trick.
Okay, well, right, I guess this is what I want to do instead. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay. Don't want that. Sorry. Doesn't matter how many times you do this, as soon as you have an audience, you're going to screw it up. Okay, so here we go. So
today I would like to show you how to view your students' grades in Google Classroom. The very first thing you are going to need to do is to go to classroom.google.com. If it's your first time there, it will prompt you for an email and password, and you are going to use your student's email and their password. If
I can just interrupt, can everyone hear me? So if you do not have that information, your student does because they've logged in a number of times. Once you get that information and you put it on your computer, Google will remember it, or you can feel free to write it down. The reason that we don't have you do it as a parent is because it doesn't provide you with quite as much information, and it's not, quite frankly, as user-friendly.
If you're unsure of what that is, please contact the school and we will get you that information. Once you are at the home page, you will see all of your students' classes, and you can click on any of these headings to view the full class. If you are only interested in seeing their work, you can click on this little icon that says Open Your Work. By clicking on that icon, you are going to see their overall percentage in that class, along with all of their assignments.
So I also want to just add to this that we had a pretty lengthy discussion on Wednesday about grades. And the thing about Greenspire is because we emphasize experiential, we have never focused on grades. We have always had a rubric at the end of a project. We've had different points of the project in which we can check in and make sure that students are on track. So this hybrid schedule has really been a challenge for us because we are providing students with way more assignments than they normally would have, so that when they're at home, they can still be engaging with the material and learning on their own. So the other thing that's unique about Greenspire is that each teacher has a lot of autonomy in the classroom. And I feel like, and Claire, you could speak to this, this is one of the real perks about being a teacher at Greenspire, is there is not this person on top saying, you know, you have to teach like this, you have to do it like this, you have to follow this book. They have a lot of freedom and we collaborate a ton. However, with that freedom, you're going to find that teachers are going to grade a little bit differently. So how Claire grades her assignments is going to be a little bit different than how Marina grades it and how, you know, Tejas grades it. Some of that I kind of like because I feel like that is life. You know, you adjust to different people and how they have different styles and the things that they value. The challenge with that is when you see an assignment that says missing or I'm trying to think what else. The teachers are not going to interpret all that the same or grade it the same way. So we had kind of a lengthy debate about that, about who wants the freedom, and that makes it challenging to teach a parent how to read that. So one of the decisions that was made was let's not put the percentage at the top, because I think what's happening is a lot of us parents that grew up in that time where grades were most important, we see that percentage and we either panic of like, oh crap, they have a 64%, what are they doing? Or we're like, oh, they're totally fine. They got a 92%, when in fact, maybe they're not actually doing their assignments. That's just the latest that the teacher has graded. So we don't want you to get hung up on that percentage. You know, instead, we want you to be involved and see what they're doing so that you can get some of the language. So you can say, hey, tell me about this Flipgrid intro. Even if you have no idea what Flipgrid is, now you have a word that came from Google Classroom that will be like, oh, shoot. Mom or dad or whoever is kind of paying attention. I need to kind of like dive in on these Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays and do the stuff because they know what I'm doing. Even if you're like, I don't really know what Flipgrid is. So this kind of provides you with language to check in with them. But like I said, everyone interprets missing assignments differently. So one decision that we made for quarter one, because, you know, mid-quarter it sort of changed, is if we had a student that just didn't get those assignments done on time, but they still got them in by the end of the quarter, that we are not going to take off a lot of points or any points for that matter, because we know that there's some issue with just learning how to work at home and then trying to catch up. The other thing to keep in mind is that just from the level of engagement that teachers have with students, they can gauge how well your student knows the material, even if they haven't done all of those assignments. So I'm just going to pick on like the co-chair's kids because they're here and they put themselves in that vulnerable spot. But I think, you know, Emily could be doing math with Liam and be like, oh, he totally knows this content, right? He is an A student simply because he knows the content and he's keeping up, even if he hasn't done all of his assignments. Now, I know as a parent that makes us panic a little bit because we're like, oh, they got to learn to keep up, that, you know, because high school is lurking. True, but this is a very unique period of time, right? And we want them to learn the content. We don't want them to get so hung up on the fact that they didn't finish all these assignments that then they become overwhelmed and they kind of check out and they disengage. The goal here is to keep them engaged and for us to just know what they're learning. And that's happening. One of the reasons that's happening is because pods have about 4 to 7 students in them. They are receiving such individualized attention. It's amazing. I mean, you walk through the school and it's quiet, and sometimes you can't find the teacher. That's kind of always been the case because teachers like tend to get down low and teach and learn alongside students. But, you know, in a pod of 22 students, whereas like maybe math can sort of like, you know, space out and like any student would be distracted by peers doing other things. It's very difficult in the current setting with 6 other students in the pod to check out because the teacher is right there looking at you. There's like constant eye contact. There's like dialogue happening with all of those students that it's pretty, it's hard to get out of that radar. All right, I'm going to continue. And if you're coming up with questions when this short video is over, we can talk about those.
So I'm going to do that one more time so you can see where we are going to. So if this is the main page, I can click on this icon and see all of the work for social studies. I can see the overall percentage for social studies as well as individual assignments. Now, a couple of things about individual assignments. If it is red and missing, that means it has not been turned in. If there is numbers like a 15 out of 15, that means it has been graded. If it says assigned, That means that the teacher has assigned it, but it is not due yet, and therefore it has not been graded. Okay? If you have any other questions about what these mean, please do not hesitate to reach out to the teacher.
All right. Okay, any questions about that? Grades or
I
anything?
actually have a question, Zeb's mom. I'm not sure if I'm okay
Yeah.
to speak you right now. Okay. So I was going on, he's been doing the Khan Academy, and I was looking at his math grade because I recently just remembered that we can go on to Google Classroom and kind of check up where they're at with grades. And the stuff that he was doing on Khan, his math grade is not on there. Is that because he's doing it on Khan and it's not transferring to Google Classroom, or is he supposed to be doing Google Classroom work and not Khan?
So Khan is great to follow up on skills. Khan is a great thing to do on his own. It's not graded, right? So this is like if he's got a light load that day, you know, you could say, hey, did you put in some time on Khan Academy? Because Khan is going to be per student. So if he progresses through, let's see, Jen, what's he doing for math right now? Can you give me some content ideas?
Yeah, so he's doing like find the mean or the
Okay, the median, right? So Khan is just think of it as a practice site. So it is catered to Zeb. So as he passes through content successfully, it will progressively get harder and introduce new concepts. If he doesn't, it will continue to cycle back until he accomplishes those. So Tejas is not going to grade through Khan. He's going to still grade through Google Classroom. So those assignments will be different.
So I guess for a parent, because I'm asking him to look at his work and he's showing me his Khan. And I think I expressed in the last time, I've just been working so much at my job that it's been hard to, you know, follow up on all the emails, which I have been getting a lot better and really making a priority right now. But so then I'm looking at it like, okay, you've got like 75% on this one. I want you to do it over again until you get 100%. And then just this last week, we realized that the grade wasn't showing up. So then we went into like due and past work. And so past, it showed all this missing work that he wasn't doing. And then I felt kind of like blindsided. Why hasn't Tejas reached out to me to tell me that Zeb is that far behind, or we were doing the wrong work, or you know, just trying to keep up with everything. I guess that's where I'm at.
Yeah, those are good questions, and I think there's probably a number of parents that get to that point where they're like really confused why it says these missing assignments. So I would recommend that you actually send an email to Tejas. One thing that Tejas could be doing is he could be, like I was just speaking about, saying, hey, Zeb he seems to really get this material. So he may overlook all of those missing assignments. The challenge with this is, you know, the teacher might give a student or all the students 8 assignments related to the same content, right? Some of those students really need all of those assignments because that's going to help them actually learn the material. Maybe in Zeb's case, he didn't do all those assignments, but he does know the material. So Tejas could actually be overlooking that work and say, that's okay, as long as Zeb knows. And that's the challenge with having students learning at home, right? Is to make sure that they're actually getting it and getting enough practice to convince the teacher that they know it. I'll give him, I'll check in with him tomorrow, Jen, but if someone was really behind, you should be hearing from them. The teachers, you know, every Wednesday we talk about who's really not engaging when they're at home or doing assignments. His name's never been on that list, by the way.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
You know, actively being able to do it with him, I haven't been as present, but that's all changing now. So I've been trying to go through every email and get caught up on everything. And basically, I'm starting school right now with Zeb. And so the first, you know, semester was definitely a huge struggle with trying to adjust to all of it. But I guess I'm confused about how it says on like active work and then past. So the past work, there's missing assignments there. So is that something that he should be like, how does the past work? Is it like you get assignment 1 week and then if you do or don't complete it, it goes into past? Or should I always be checking? Because I was looking at it like, oh, past means you've already done it, but past actually
Right.
doesn't mean that.
Yeah, I don't know. That would, I'm not sure Tejas's interpretation of that. Claire, do you have any ideas on that?
So something that I'm actually showing the kids this week, we're talking about emails and cleaning up their email accounts. Another thing that we're showing them is it actually shows you on Google Classroom. Can I actually share my screen? Because I think I still have the kids' class up. Yeah, I do. There's a little tab that says to do. And it's literally sectioned out of everything that needs to be done this week, everything that has not been done, either it's missing or it hasn't been graded. Those are the two options. And then there's an entire section of what has been graded and what the grade actually is. And it's super helpful. You know what? I didn't even know about this. A student pointed it out to me today. And it's just extremely helpful to be able to see. Can you see this that I have shared?
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
My 8,000 tabs. So if you see this to do right up here, this is where it brings you to that information, and it'll give you, and it, unfortunately the example that I have isn't very up to date, but it gives you all of the things that are due, when they're due here, and then you can go to what's missing. So that means that would be that past work where like my stuff's due every week. And so if it goes past Friday, then that would just be last week's work. So technically it's late, but I don't do the late grade kind of a thing. This would be the missing, either hasn't been turned in, hasn't been done, or hasn't been graded. And then this is all the stuff that has been graded and is done and in the grade book. So that to do, you can also find it here in the menu, because I use this classes button all the time, but that to do is right here, and it's extremely beneficial for, and it does every single class, and you can select specific classes within it too.
So I really like looking at this now, but is there any way that you could specifically go to math? Because it doesn't look like this. It says like active and past. So I guess maybe that would just be something to look at for how it's coming up for parents, because how I was seeing it is like it's past, like it's already gone. I don't even need to worry about it. But if it was missing, then that would be something like, oh, I really need to keep up on him for that.
Right. I don't know that I've ever actually seen the word past on here. So Sarah, I think that would have to be something that we would have to look into, just based off of what I guess what we're seeing and what you guys are seeing, because I'm not used to the word past on any of this.
Yeah, same.
Well,
Let me follow up with you on that, Jen.
Take a picture of it on his phone and just email it to you, so you know exactly where we're at in this, and I can, you know.
Is it in the right column where the red says missing? Is that where you find it, where it says past?
No, so it would be like I guess it would just be, I saw it on his math, and it was just, it wasn't this, because I have seen this before, the missing. It was, if you go back to classwork maybe, it's where in math on his Google Classroom it was showing up as it was two things you could choose from, either like basically active or past work. So I don't know, maybe it was just, but now I'm finding out that he was doing his math on the Khan Academy, and he was confused that was his.
And you don't think it was past like he passed it, like check, like
no,
fail or pass?
We clicked on it, and that's when that missing came up, where it was like assignments, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I looked back, and it went back all the way to September 30th.
Gotcha. Okay, I'll follow up with Tejas on that. But certainly if you want to send a screenshot of that, we can clarify what that's all about.
Yeah, that'd be really helpful because I haven't seen that, and we haven't even talked about that in any of our grading stuff. So
Right.
it'd be very important for us to know what you guys are seeing too.
Yeah, definitely. I'll do that. Make it a priority. Thanks.
I don't know if you have any flexibility on this, but I think Jen brings up a really good point. With the way we're interacting with this and knowing it's intended for a much more rigid structure, do we have any flexibility on like statuses? Is there a way that Tejas could go in and be like, this assignment doesn't really need to be done because this kid's totally got it?
Marco, that's a really great question. I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Amy. I was just going to say, I totally get what you're saying, Sarah, and that is actually very helpful and makes a lot of sense. But then how do we at home, cracking the whip, know if we should let him slide? Because I can assure you, he would tell me he could probably let it slide, especially if he was in this room listening to your speech.
Yeah, you're suggesting almost like a sliding scale in terms of assignments.
I think
Well,
what I was
just like
saying
what
is,
Marco was saying, how do we know if Tejas is looking at Cameron saying, oh yeah, he totally has this math, and so I'm probably not even going to worry if he has this particular assignment done because I know he understands. So I'm not going to worry if he doesn't have it, but I'm over here going, hey, this says it's due right here. You better get on this.
Right. I would recommend if you have requested a Zoom conference, I would recommend asking that specific question. Is saying, I'm on his case. Should I not be? How am I going to know what? I would recommend having those conversations with the teachers that you have requested. You also, if you've requested an email, we're calling it an email conference, you also will get more information in regards to like a goal for next quarter or what he or she or they need to work on. So I think that will give you some answers as well as to if they're on par. And if you're hearing, hey, they are on par, they are learning, they're keeping up, then you could probably, when you look at all their assignments, you could probably, make that judgment as to, I think they're doing okay. We need to not stress about every single missing assignment. I just want to add, students work at all different paces. They take all these assignments seriously or not seriously. From the student that does, I checked everything 15 minutes to the student that we heard of a student that's doing 8 hours of work, like every single little assignment. I don't know if she's like double checking it, but the scale is absolutely enormous. It's so difficult to know how many assignments are enough and to make sure they're getting it. And like I said, we've always really emphasized experiential education. So this is a challenge for us to just constantly be doling out assignments. This is not of the norm at all. Any other thoughts or questions on grades or Google Classroom?
I have one more question, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. In the past, grades have really been we do this project-based. We get them in before the semester's over, so don't worry too much about that. Is it safe to assume the teachers are inputting these grades more frequently?
Claire, what would you answer that question? Because that's a tricky answer because life is very, very full. Everyone's very, very busy.
I would say, bless you. I would say with the schedule that we've had for the past couple of weeks, it was a lot easier for me to be getting grades in. But then the new schedule that just started with the stage 4, it makes me a little bit busier. So honestly, just be patient with us as best you can. I know it's got to be so tough, but we're really working as hard as we can. I mean, that's my priority for every time that I have off is getting information to kids and to you to make sure that, it's not too stressful for them on those other 3 days.
Yeah, I think that really touches, exactly why those 2 questions needed to be asked. We know that you guys are also living in a pandemic and you are also going through a lot. And I don't know if other parents know this, but when we switched to stage 4, at home, we don't really see much difference, but at school, they see a lot of difference in what they have to do. But I think what I'm I wanted to get those questions out there because I think the big important thing is how do we communicate with parents? How do we make sure the parents know how to help from their end? And if we can do so without emailing you guys every 12 minutes, I mean, I think that helps all of us.
Well, and as a teacher, honestly, especially like Jen in your situation, if that were my class, shoot me an email and just say what's going on here. Not even with the conference emails. And I mean, I'm very, very keen. I just got an Apple Watch actually, so I get these emails right on my phone or on my watch. But when I see ones that come from you guys, I really try to pay attention to them because I know how stressful it is for you guys too. So just trying to make that balance of getting the information to you. I love it when parents email me and just say, hey, what's going on with this? I try to get back to them as soon as possible. I'm not saying all of us can do the same thing, but our communication with you and with the kids when they're at home is extremely important to all of us. So
Claire, if I can hand out a compliment to you and to all of the teachers, is I did that, as you know, shortly after hybrid had started, and just, hey, how's Cameron doing? I know he tends to rush through things. What are you seeing? What's the quality of work? And everybody wrote back to me, and they didn't just write me a one-liner. It was really very great emails, and I greatly appreciated it. So thank you to all of you.
thank
Awesome.
you.
I do have a question regarding parent or guardian teacher meetings. And this is a general question for the teachers actually of, is it actually easier to do an email than to do a Zoom meeting with teachers?
Claire, I think she just took a breath because we've had lots of conversations about this too.
I just took a deep breath. The biggest issue, Kat, is we want to be able to connect with you so much. It's just, you know, then all of a sudden I think we had like 45 different parents that wanted Zoom calls or something with certain people. And that's a 7-minute Zoom call for each parent for one teacher. And so it just, the time adds up. We don't want to deprive you of information. I will say personally, I can get an email out much faster and probably be very concise in my information. And I'm pretty good at doing the back and forth on anything too. I know that people will value the Zooms too, where we can just say, you know, they're getting it, they're not, they're doing their work, they're not. And if that's something that they value, then I mean, we'll put in the time. We absolutely will.
I guess my question was more, I signed up for emails and then I went, oh crap, is that actually easier for the teachers?
I speak for myself, unfortunately, because we're not all here together as one. I would say that emails would be easier for me, just because of the collection of the amount of time for the Zooms. So honestly, what I would say to any parent who asks that question, please do what you want and what you feel comfortable with. I don't want to force anyone into anything because of, you know, what we can or can't do. We offered these two to you, and if this is, you want a Zoom, great. You want an email, great. We'll do either. So
I will say that part of why I requested email was actually so that I have the notes right there, because my brain is a sieve when I'm going from teacher to teacher. And so I will forget to ask questions and I'll also forget the answers to those questions. So part of that was self-serving so that you give me the notes and I don't have to. So
yeah, well, and it would be a lot of time for you guys too to do 7 to 10 minutes with each teacher. I mean, that's 6, 7, 8 Zoom calls. So that's a lot of time for you too. If that's what you want, absolutely. We will definitely put in the time and hope that you can too. So again, it's whatever each parent signed up for and what they prefer. I think we will all sit there and say, this is what needs to get done. We're going to do it. We really want to get this information to you guys. That's what's most important is we know you're struggling and we're struggling and we're all struggling together and we're just going to keep trying to work together as much as we possibly can.
I guess I was just really trying to look at, okay, how does this work well for somebody or not well for somebody, and trying to look at those pieces. So
I understand.
Cool, thank you.
I think the real advantage with Zoom, if your schedule allows, is that you could have your child with you. you know, our normal parent family conferences are with students. So it's like the whole, you know, it seems weird to chat without the student there. Now, granted, not everyone's schedule right now can help make that happen, but that is an advantage, is if you feel like your student is maybe telling you a different story than what you're seeing on paper, that's a nice opportunity to just all come to the table and be like, what's really going on here and how can we make steps in the right direction? So.
And that actually gives us the opportunity to converse with your kid at the same time, you know, okay, well, hey, remember when you and I talked about this? And, you know, it brings the three different angles of the triangle all together into one. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Zooms would be beneficial either way. So.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
I have
All
one
right.
other thing to say, as Jen, sorry about that. So I just, as far as what Sarah was talking about at the beginning about, you know, not as, basically what I'm trying to get at is this last week we had a project assignment with Zeb's science class, and it was a way that really helped at home for us, myself, to interact and learn about more of what he is in it, what he's studying, because it was hands-on and we were talking
Mhm.
about it. And when he's just sitting there and I have a
Mhm.
toddler at home and a tween, it's a lot harder to focus, just that sit down, look at the computer. And so I feel like, just as far as a parental, and he was really engaged and made it a priority to have it in before the weekend, which was also really sweet. I just feel like that those kind of things outside of school, if school is getting rid of like the electives right now, which was something he was really looked forward to during the day, that maybe we could move some of that, even if it's in health and fitness, to, you know, whatever project it is, it's something that we actually, he works on at home and then he brings it to school, because I've learned that he's good at both, but hands-on learning for him is really helpful, because it works with my schedule a lot better with our family lifestyle, I guess. So I thought I'd just.
Yeah, that's fantastic feedback. I will for sure, I mean, I'll make sure all this gets communicated to the staff, but that's really great feedback. You know, as I've been reading just about how best to keep students engaged, that's the main message, is make it as engaging when they're at home as possible, which doesn't necessarily mean an online assignment, right? So we have to really start getting creative. And one of the things that Chris was doing is she was saying, take a picture of your project and send it. You know, if you can't actually physically bring it in, take a picture. So I'm with you on that. And I think that is probably a pretty helpful direction to move to. Computers are way more distracting than anything else. Let's just be honest. So,
Yep,
so that's actually a pretty decent segue, if you don't mind, Marco. And maybe this does not involve everyone, but I've had so many parents and students ask me, how do I stay focused at home? And I can. And, you know, we've had, like, last spring, we had a sort of a trial run, but there was really not much pressure, because generally everybody knew that nothing counted, right? It was like, we were just trying to keep everyone present. We were trying to, you know, gauge their level of engagement and attendance. But in general, the message was grades don't count. And as much as we tried to not really communicate that, it gets communicated because kids are smart and they pick up on it. Well, now grades count. And now I feel like that added pressure is making everyone a little bit anxious when they feel like their kid's home alone or whatever your scenario is, and they're not getting any work done. So I just would like to share some of the ideas that I've gathered from this community and from the things that I've read. I don't think there's anything that's completely shocking. I don't think you're going to have this aha moment where you're like, that's all we have to do now. You know, Cameron or whoever is going to, Zeb's going to stay engaged. But these might provide you with some ideas. If this does not involve you, if you're like, oh, we got it going, feel free to step out. I don't know, Marco, if there's anything else on the agenda besides this, but I'll try to keep it short. Two other things? Okay.
They're short though.
Okay. All right. So here we go. And I actually, oh, hang on. I got to get out of this. I just made a little, I just made some slides simply so that I could stay focused. And I just can't seem to get out of this. I can't seem to get out of this link. There we go. All right.
It's all about the light angle. Seriously, did you see me moving the light around back here? Do not know why my computer does this.
Okay, so let's see. The main message that I want to communicate, if you're really struggling to have your student be involved and stay motivated, is the most that you can involve them to create buy-in to what their days look like when they're home, the better. If you were to sit down and you create a schedule and you create their space and all this stuff, that all sounds great in your perspective, but this is kind of what we do with PBL, is the more buy-in we have and the more that you can involve your student with these choices, the more apt that it's going to work. So that's my main message, is in your conversation with them is get their feedback. I have, right now I have 3 kids at home that are on and off depending on what school they go to. And I have a college student, and we have so many conversations about this. And it's truly like, what is going to work for you? What have you tried? What doesn't work? If I were to tell my oldest, do this, she would be like, no, Mom, you know, so it really, it's what's going to work, what they think. So involve the students in the process. Here are some suggestions that I have for their space. I suggest that you actually include a clock. I know that is so old school, but my next slide is going to be the things to not include. And the first thing that I recommend that they don't include when they're focusing on their schoolwork is their phone. You know, we don't let students have their phone in class because they're distracting. I know a lot of times they say, oh, I want to listen to music. I focus more if I listen to music, but we all know that when you pick up your phone to turn on the music, you see something else that grabs your attention. So if the argument is, no, I need it to tell time, well, you know what? You should get them an old-fashioned analog or a digital clock and have that be part of their learning space. Post-it notes, you know, last year was an extremely challenging year for me. I lived by Post-it notes. All my tasks that are the most important are on a Post-it note. And then that is so satisfying to rip it off your wall or your desk and throw it in the garbage. Some kind of system like that. It doesn't have to be that. I know Marco is like king of systems. Find a system that you think that they would like to try, or have them brainstorm some systems of how they can keep track of their tasks and go forward. Whiteboard. We have a lot of whiteboards at school. If you think a whiteboard would be helpful for you, I'm more than happy to send it home with you. There are a variety of sizes, generally probably 11 by 15. But whiteboards, it's also a great way to write your tasks or write questions as you have. You know, teachers are in class, so they can't always answer questions right away, but we have a lot. I'm happy to let you use some. Headphones. If you are in a household where there's lots of background noise, headphones help. I also think that your background matters. For your entertainment, you could get on Twitter, and it's called room rating. You can look at people's room rating for Zooms, but seriously think about this. You know, one of the challenges when we have Zoom classes is that students don't have their camera on, and we want to respect that space because not everyone is proud, especially as an adolescent, of what's going on in their household. Well, we might think it's really cute if their little toddler sibling comes, they might not want that. They might not feel great about their background. But if you could like even let them stage a background that they are proud of, they are more apt to open up their camera. And if they open up their camera, we are more apt to have more dialogue with them. There's nothing worse than being like, Claire, what do you think, Claire? And Claire is muted. We can't see Claire's face, and it's just crickets. And you're like, is Claire even there? So if you can create a cool background, if you can do it digitally, or if they can like hang a tapestry or something that would make it more comfortable for them, I recommend that. Okay, next. So what not to include is your phone or any other technology, any other distractions that you might have in your household. Try to keep those to a limit. I know that we all have funny stories about the weirdest places we've done Zoom calls because of distractions, but they're real. And in the adolescence mind, those are huge. They are so embarrassing. And remember, right now, their social life is so small compared to how they would probably prefer to have it, that I think those insecurities are really high right now. So creating a daily plan, I know that we have sent out some suggested daily plans. One conversation to have is, would you prefer to do your worst task first or save it for last? And what is that worst task? And let them sort of create, a list of how to order things around. Like I said, to have a Post-it or scrap pad ready. You could have them, or they could make their own to-do list from checking their email and then their Google Classroom. That's kind of a nice way I make a list. And then I decide what is going to go on those Post-it notes today. What is the most important thing, or before lunch or after lunch. I suggest, and this can go kind of better with my next slide, but if finding a friend to check in midday. If there is a friend that you know that they have that's working from home, just be like, hey, I've got one goal to get this done. I want to get my reading done, to get my reading checked for Claire's class. You want to do the same, then let's check in at a certain time. They need that social interaction so much. So if you can marry the two together to be goal oriented and be a middle school friend, that is like a wonderful life skill to have. I also suggest saving the most difficult work for when a parent is available. I know that's probably not music to everyone's ears. Like Jen is saying, she comes home, she's got tons of stuff going on, and now she's got to tackle math with Zeb. But honestly, if there's some content that you feel like even just it would be helpful for them to have you sit alongside them, save those for the end of the day or whenever you're available. And then I just really recommend writing a schedule for the day that includes physical activity. It includes, having a snack. It includes FaceTiming a friend, but just having a very specific schedule so that the time doesn't just go on, or they're distracted and all of a sudden they've watched, 2 hours worth of YouTube videos. I also am a big fan of a Fitbit or some sort of a device that measures your physical activity. That's a nice way to get kids up and moving and to set some personal goals. And then I'm a big fan of motivators. I've had a really enjoyable time asking students that are successful. And we do have a few students that are kind of adultish that you're like, how do you do it? How are you so mature at such a young age? But they have some great motivators. This girl Lily is like, oh, I tell myself that if I can finish my social studies, then I will watch 20 minutes of YouTube videos. Decide what's their favorite thing to treat themselves with. Is it like an earned break? Is it phone time, pet time? A lot of kids talked about their time with their pets. Is it some sort of break to go outside and build a fort or some other hobby or knit? And then I just recommend having a daily check-in. And if you can either look at the week ahead, so just starting this week, we've added the week ahead onto the website, which is for all students. That will give you some nice common language so that you can say, okay, it looks like right now, I'm actually trying to think, I was just editing them this morning, what some of the content is. But if you had a specific content to check in, like I said earlier, it's just a nice way to show that, to make it seem like you're maybe more involved than you're able to be. But, it's a lot harder to say, yeah, I did all my stuff and yeah, it went well, if you can specifically say, oh, tell me about something that you're reading in social studies, and have some just keywords. And I think that is... Oh, so I just wanted to hear from you, if you have anything, like what has not worked? What have you tried that you've not had success with? Kind of curious. Or what have you tried that's been wildly successful?
I think for math, one thing that has shown what will work and not work is a midday check-in to say, the email that came through this morning, the Google Classroom check-in, what items do you actually have to do today? And what that's allowed us to do is step back and review with him what's going on, because I know that he doesn't necessarily have the best executive function skills. So I might look at a list that he's already reviewed and be like, oh, you missed that checkbox. That one seems kind of important. So it's showing where he has challenges and room to grow, and it's also been really effective for us.
Eden typically gets up and just does her work right away and gets done and then wants to play. But the one thing that they do, her couple of friends that go there, is they check in with each other sometimes. sometimes they argue about whether or not something's optional, but, and sometimes they do the wrong thing, and even when they don't need to, but that's worked well, and I think it's helpful for some of our pod friends as far as helping them stay on track when maybe they have parents who are working and not really able to kind of be present.
We've just been trying to find that balance of kind of like what Marco was saying, him planning for what needs to be done. You know, so tried sort of a little bit more of a hands-off approach. And then last week kind of tried to not so much attempting to tell him exactly what he had to do, but here's what we're seeing as a skill that needs to be learned is how to look ahead at these 3 days and the things that you need to do, you know, like the different things for nature trails, you know, and then making sure to turn them in and that kind of stuff. So we kind of had a whiteboard that we kind of created a checklist. And listening to you, Sarah, though, I was saying, we were kind of talking that Jen and I, that perhaps I made more of that list. He was sitting there, but it was probably not as much his ideas. So that would be a, you know, another idea of how to approach that. Just trying to find a balance, you know.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to jump in real quick. It's 8 o'clock and I want to honor everyone's time. Maya, you had a question before we can leave.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Sarah, for all of that good information and for the presentation on Google Classroom. Thank you, Marco and Sarah, and I know maybe many more here on this call who have brought us through to this idea of a Green Spire High School. I was really excited to see that that's on the horizon. However, I read somewhere maybe in just one email or something that the high school sounded like it was described as being focused on advanced placement classes and perhaps the high school college combo package, which for many kids maybe is great, not necessarily for my son. So I want to be part of the conversations or know where to direct some of my questions about being inclusive of all learners, maybe if you're not the advanced placement kid, or where some of those conversations are at and with whom or how that's proceeding.
That's a great question. I definitely cannot speak to that. I think, sort of purposefully closed my ears to it because I just feel like there's just so much to focus on right now in the middle school. So I won't even pretend to speak to that. I've heard some of the same topics come up. I think it would probably be helpful to a lot of people if there was a conversation with a group of families or anyone that would like to, that is specifically focused on that, so that you could ask those questions and get the right answers. You know, we do have a gentleman, his name is Michael Schramm, that has been hired to get that high school up and running and to do some of the hiring and to do all of these processes. So I think that he would be a great person with Robert and with Megan Batdorf, who's on our board, that has really done a lot of the legwork for that grant. So I think that we need to make that happen soon.
Yeah, I can take that as an action item. I'll reach out to all the right people and try to set up maybe a Zoom call like this.
Awesome.
Thank you, Marco.
Yeah. I know that, yeah, we'll set it up and we'll actually have that something where people that have real information can give it to you. And Sarah said Megan had a big hand. I feel like, and I know that there are a lot of people involved, I feel like Megan has somehow single-handedly made this work, and I don't know how that's possible, but she's amazing. I had one more thing I wanted to bring up, but I wanted to make sure. Maya, do you feel like you have enough answer on that question for me to move on?
Yes, thank you, Marco.
Awesome. I just wanted to bring up one thing. I put it in the chat as a topic to bring up, and it's COVID stuff. I know that when we ended up switching to hybrid, one of the biggest concerns with that there was not the communication that people wanted. I don't know any more than you do right now, but I saw an email from the health department recently saying that our current active numbers for COVID since October are more than the sum of all of the months before. We have gone to a grade E, which is like the part of the UP that we were like, I hope we never get there. So I just want to put it out there and know that there might be a point where the state says we are now stage 3.
I was just listening to the TCAPS thing right before I got on here, and we're hovering around 9% infection rate. And currently the hospitals are like overwhelmed locally and flowing out of overflows. So, I mean, so yeah. So it's getting bad. And I think that, I don't know that a lot of people necessarily know that information, but they just said it today that it was about 9% getting close to 10.
Yeah,
So,
last I knew it was high 7s, so that's even more concerning than I thought. I
Yeah,
wanted to bring
and-
it up here. I'm sorry, Jackie,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh no, just like the sense was that it's possible that we're moving in that direction, and people should start kind of preparing themselves to have that possible move.
Yeah, there might be a point where there is another change. So I strongly advise looking at what happens at Greenspire when we go to phase 3. Please keep tight watch on the content coming out from Robert. He's keeping his thumb on everything, and he's trying to share as much as he can. So I just wanted to say that. Kat, you had one more question?
It's not a question. What it was is a experiential. Liam had asked for some help with his algebra. He had asked for some help with his math. And so we talked about it, and he talked to his teacher. What we ended up with was reaching out. I did set him up with one of the tutors with GVSU. And I went online, what was it, Friday? I went online, got him registered, got a time for today at 11 o'clock. And so he's already had his first tutoring session. And he came out of it saying, oh, I understood what I was doing wrong last week, and was able to finish his work. So he already knows his tutor's name, and they have a plan for him to check in and set up another time if he feels stuck again. He was able to bring in stuff. He was able to articulate what he was having problems with, which really blew me away. He's like, this piece of what did he say? He had to use a very specific term, was confusing to me. And I'm like, oh, that totally makes sense. But the fact, I found the GVSU signing up for tutoring to be very easy. It was very fast. And I got an email confirmation, a text confirmation, a text reminder for the appointment with the Zoom call information. I put his email in there, so he got an email confirmation with the Zoom login information and confirmation and the name of the person that he was working with. And it worked. It wasn't hard. It wasn't an arduous process. It was really easy. And I encourage anybody to use it, because it wasn't like we had to wait 2 weeks to have him see somebody. It was 2 days. So that was kind of amazing. So I wanted to give you guys props and tell you it worked.
And it's free.
Thank you,
free.
Kat.
Pretty easy works.
that actually reminded me. I put 2 more links over in the chat. One of them was after our last SSC meeting. We had a second SSC meeting in October. We covered a lot of ground. I put up a page on the site talking about that GVSU tutoring. I did a little bit of research into it, and I tried to make a more simplified version of here's how you do it. I want that page to be as we work through it, let's work through it together, and we can add to the page to make it more clear. So never hesitate to email me if you have info. The second link I put was, there were 4 or 5 questions that we came out of the last meeting where these are the things that people wanted to know about where we are. So I just wanted everyone to know that if you go to those links, you will see that those have been answered very, very clearly and are out there so everyone can have the same information. So we are at 9:10 or 8:10. My computer says 9. That was that panicked look you saw on my face a few minutes ago. It's still the old time. Thank you so much for staying late, and we'll get together soon. I will let everyone know best I can once we have something set together for high school information.
Thank you, Marco. Thanks, Kat.
Have a good night.
I just don't, I want to make sure, I think we could do like 1 or 2 projects a week. I think, and if I don't want to step too far ahead of myself and have every single class and send home with a project due each week. So just, you know, when you're talking to teachers to.
Gotcha, yeah.
But thank you.
Zeb's mom said every subject should have 2 projects a week. Yeah, we'll be very careful.
Oh my gosh, wait, I didn't mean to set us up for this.
If I hear Zeb complain, I'll just say, you know, your mom.
Let's hope no students that Zeb knows hears that.
Yeah, right.
Beams Diorama brought out the snark too, so it was kind of awesome. One of the fish looking at a dam.
That's awesome. Thanks, Jen.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Goodbye. Sorry, I wandered away. Have a good day.